My husband stood at the head of our anniversary table, one hand on his mistress's trembling shoulder, and ordered me to apologize to her in front of everyone or leave my own home. "Apologize to Celeste or get out!" Daniel shouted, loud enough for his mother, his brother, our neighbors, the caterer, the florist, and the pastor who had married us 10 years earlier to hear. "I am tired of you embarrassing me with your bitterness." The garden went silent. His mother lowered her champagne glass. His brother looked at the gravel path. The caterer froze with a tray of lamb chops in both hands. Mrs. Alvarez from next door stopped recording the toast. Even Pastor Reed, who had blessed our marriage under the same oak tree, stared at Daniel as if he had finally heard the crack in the floor. Celeste dabbed at the wine on her silk dress, though she had been the one who knocked the glass toward herself when I asked why her name was on the seating card beside my husband. I had planned every flower, paid the deposit on every rental, and spent the morning polishing my grandmother's silver because Daniel said the night had to look perfect for the donors. So I looked at my husband, then at the woman he was protecting in my garden, and said quietly, "If I leave, Daniel, you may want to make sure you can still get back in." His mouth tightened. He gave a short laugh, the kind he used when he wanted witnesses to believe I was being dramatic. "There it is," he said. "The threat. Claire always has to turn every room into a courtroom." I did not look at the small brass key in my palm. I had taken it from the kitchen drawer an hour earlier, not because I wanted a scene, but because I knew exactly which door Celeste planned to open before the night was over. Celeste gave the table a wounded little smile. She was beautiful in a precise, rehearsed way, with a white dress chosen to look soft and a voice chosen to sound injured. "I didn't mean to upset anyone," she whispered. "I only said the house could use a woman with a lighter touch." A lighter touch. That was what she called standing in the hallway earlier and telling the florist to remove my grandmother's blue hydrangeas because they made the house look old. That was what she called moving my place card away from Daniel's chair and putting herself beside him. That was what she called introducing herself to donors as the creative director of Hawthorne House. As if the name on the gate had been waiting for her to arrive. Daniel turned back to me, face flushed. "You heard her. She was trying to help. You owe her an apology." His mother, Evelyn, whispered, "Daniel, this is not the time." He ignored her. "No, Mom. It is exactly the time. For years, Claire has acted like this house makes her untouchable. Tonight she either behaves like my wife, or she leaves." My hand closed around the key. The house behind us glowed through tall windows, every lamp lit, every room cleaned by my hands or paid for by my savings, every wall holding some piece of my grandmother's life. Daniel had moved into Hawthorne House after our wedding with 2 suitcases and a dream of starting a boutique event business. I had given him space, credit, introductions, patience, and silence. He had turned all of it into a stage and invited another woman to stand beside him. I folded my napkin and placed it on the table. "I will not apologize for asking why your consultant is seated in my chair." Celeste inhaled as if I had slapped her. Daniel took a step toward me. The caterer shifted backward. Pastor Reed rose halfway from his seat. "Then go inside," Daniel said through his teeth. "Cool off before you ruin this family." I stood. Not quickly, not with drama. I simply stood, picked up my glass, and looked down the long table where people who had eaten my food and borrowed my rooms and called me reliable were now waiting to see whether I would make their discomfort worse. "Of course," I said. "Enjoy the dinner you asked me to build." I walked toward the back doors while the garden remained quiet behind me. I could feel Daniel's relief before I reached the steps. He thought he had pushed me out of the scene. He thought my calm meant surrender. That had always been his mistake. Inside, the house smelled of roasted rosemary, beeswax, and the lemon oil I used on the old banister. Hawthorne House had belonged to my grandmother, Ruth, who bought it after teaching piano for 42 years and never let a man tell her which room was hers. When she left it to me, she wrote one sentence under the signature line: "Keep the doors open only for people who respect what was built here." For a long time, I thought respect could be taught by giving more. When Daniel wanted to host small dinners for his business contacts, I opened the dining room. When he wanted to brand the house as a private event space, I stayed up late creating brochures, booking cleaners, answering emails, and pretending I did not mind when people congratulated him on his vision. When his company account ran short, I put vendor deposits on my card because he said cash flow was temporary. When Celeste appeared 6 months earlier as a brand consultant, I gave her the benefit of the doubt because I was tired of being the wife who noticed too much. Then the house cameras noticed for me. I did not install them to spy on my husband. I installed them after a contractor walked out with one of my grandmother's brass lamps during a renovation. The kitchen camera faced the back hall. The foyer camera faced the front door. The garden camera caught the oak tree and the long table. Daniel knew about them. He simply believed I never checked anything unless there was a broken window or a missing package. 3 weeks before the anniversary dinner, I opened the footage because Celeste had used the backdoor code at midnight. I watched her step into my kitchen in Daniel's jacket, laughing softly as he followed with 2 glasses and a bottle from my grandmother's locked cabinet. They did not kiss in the clip. They did not need to. He touched her lower back as if he had done it 100 times, and she pointed toward the east wing. When Claire finally loses it, Celeste said on camera, "We can say she made the house impossible to use. People already think she's cold." Daniel laughed. "After the donors see you here, they will understand who should be front-facing. She can keep the paperwork if it makes her feel important." I watched that sentence twice. Then I downloaded the clip, saved it to a folder, and did not confront him. Because I also found the text messages. Daniel had left his tablet on the breakfast counter, open to a shared planning thread. I was reaching for the grocery list when Celeste's name flashed across the screen. "After the anniversary toast, make her apologize or leave. If she walks out, we announce the new Hawthorne plan without her. The donors need to see you choose stability." Daniel replied, "She won't fight in public. She never does." That was the second thing I saved. The third was simpler. I went to the county website, printed the ownership record for Hawthorne House, and slid it into the blue folder under my desk. 1 page. 1 plain fact. The house was in my name. Without my signature, Daniel could not turn it into a venue, pledge it to donors, sell naming rights, move Celeste into the East Wing, or charge another event through the property account. I did not need a legal maze. I needed the truth in forms a room could understand. A camera clip, a text message, and 1 ownership record. I had spent the week preparing quietly. I changed the backdoor code and gave the new one only to the caterer, the house manager, and myself. I moved the property card out of Daniel's wallet account after finding 2 charges for Celeste's hotel. I told the caterer in writing that no additional charges could be approved without my confirmation. I canceled the private midnight tour of the East Wing that Daniel had booked under future donor walkthrough, because donors do not need fresh linens and champagne in a bedroom. Then I let the dinner happen. Back in the kitchen, Nora, the house manager, looked up from the service schedule. She had worked at Hawthorne House since we opened it for events. A sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who could tell from a candle flame whether a draft had opened upstairs. "I heard him," she said. Everyone did. Her jaw tightened. "Do you want me to stop service?" I looked through the window toward the garden. Daniel was standing now, pouring wine for Celeste as if he had rescued civilization. People had begun talking again in small, careful bursts. They were trying to repair the evening around the wound. "No," I said. "Serve the main course. Let them stay comfortable a little longer." Nora's eyes moved to the key in my hand. "The East Wing?" "Not yet." She nodded once. The way good staff nod when they understand that timing is part of the service. The first real crack came before dessert. I was in the butler's pantry checking the coffee urns when Celeste slipped inside, closing the door halfway behind her. The soft injury had vanished from her face. Without the table watching, she looked almost bored. "You should have apologized," she said. I set a spoon beside the cups. "For what?" "For making him choose in front of everyone. Men hate that." I turned toward her. "He brought you to my anniversary dinner." She smiled. "He brought me to the future of this house. Those are different things." "There it was," said cleanly. "Not an affair disguised as confusion. Not a misunderstanding. A plan." She looked around the pantry with a little sigh. You know, Daniel cares about you in his way. He just outgrew this sad little version of marriage, where a wife thinks paying bills is the same as being inspiring. I thought about the months I had carried his overdue vendor calls, the years I had smiled when guests praised his taste, the nights I had eaten leftovers standing over the sink because dinner for clients mattered more than dinner with me. I thought about how often women are told they are bitter when they finally describe the receipt. Celeste, I said, if this house is your future, you should know where the exits are. For the first time, her smile thinned. Daniel said you were controlled. He didn't say you were this jealous. He says many things when he thinks a woman will cover the truth for him. She opened her mouth, but Nora entered with a tray of folded napkins and stopped just inside the doorway. Celeste changed instantly. Her eyes softened again. Her shoulders fell. I only came to make peace, she said loudly enough for Nora to hear. I hope you can find some grace tonight. Then she walked out. Nora watched her leave. She practices that in mirrors. Probably with good lighting. It was the first time that evening I almost laughed. Dessert was peach tart and coffee, my grandmother's favorite ending to any dinner where someone had behaved badly. In the garden, Daniel stood again, tapping his knife against his glass. Celeste moved beside him before he asked. She knew the cue. Of course she did. Friends, Daniel began, with the warm voice he used for checks and applause. Tonight has been emotional because this house means so much to all of us. But Hawthorne House cannot survive by looking backward. It needs vision. It needs leadership. And I am proud to say that with Celeste's guidance, we are ready to announce the next chapter. Murmurs moved through the table. Evelyn sat straighter. His brother Mark frowned. Mrs. Alvarez lifted her phone again. Daniel continued. The Hawthorne House Cultural Fund will support community dinners, music programs, and private events that preserve this property for future generations. Celeste will serve as creative director, and I will oversee operations. We hope all of you will join us as founding donors. The words sounded generous. That was their trick. He made theft sound like preservation. He made replacing me sound like service. I watched from the kitchen doorway as Celeste lowered her head with perfect humility. This place has already become very dear to me, she said. I know transitions are difficult, especially for people attached to the past. But I promise to honor what matters while bringing Hawthorne House into the light. Attached to the past. That was me. Not the owner. Not the woman who kept the roof repaired, and the pantry stocked and the event calendar alive. A sentimental obstacle. Daniel looked toward the house. Claire, come join us. The garden turned to me. I stepped out with the blue folder in one hand and the small brass key in the other. Daniel's smile tightened when he saw the folder. No speeches tonight. I agree, I said. Facts will be enough. Celeste gave a soft laugh. This is exactly what I meant by bitterness. Evelyn looked at her then. Really looked at her. And something in her face shifted. She had spent the dinner uncomfortable but quiet. One of those mothers who preferred peace until peace became complicity. Celeste, she said. Perhaps let Claire speak. Daniel turned sharply. Mom. No, Evelyn said. And her voice carried. I heard what you said to your wife. I want to hear what she knows. The first witness changed sides. Not completely. Not bravely enough to undo years. But publicly. Daniel's eyes flashed toward me. Fine. Say what you need to say. Then apologize for turning our anniversary into a trial. Before I answered, the back doors clicked. A young server hurried down the steps, face pale. Mr. Whitmore? Miss Celeste? The East Wing door code isn't working. The photographer says he was told to set up a private donor suite upstairs, but he can't get in. Celeste went still. Daniel recovered first. Use the old code. We did, sir. It failed. 3 times. Nora appeared behind him with her service tablet. The East Wing code was changed this morning. Only authorized house access is active. Daniel's jaw tightened. I own this event. You host this event, Nora said. You do not own the house. The sentence moved across the table like wind over a candle line. Celeste reached into her small white bag and pulled out a card. Then bill the suite setup to my event account. We can handle a door later. Nora looked down at the tablet. The caterer just attempted the added charge for the sweet flowers, linens, champagne, and tomorrow's donor brunch. The card on file was declined. A card declined. A door code failed. Daniel's perfect future began to lose its furniture in front of the people he had invited to fund it. Celeste flushed. That is a bank error. It was attempted twice, Nora said. The caterer is asking whether to release tomorrow's brunch reservation to another client by 9 tonight. Mrs. Alvarez lowered her phone and looked at Daniel. Tomorrow's brunch? I thought this was only an anniversary dinner. Mark, Daniel's brother, set his napkin on the table. Dan, what exactly did you promise these people? Daniel pointed at Nora. You are staff. You don't get to speak to me like that. She speaks for the house when I ask her to, I said. He turned on me then, all polish gone. You prepared this? Yes. A few people drew in breath, as if the word itself had broken some rule. Celeste seized on it. You hear that? She said, looking around the table. She admitted it. She set this up because she couldn't handle another woman being respected here. I opened the blue folder and placed one page on the table in front of Evelyn. Not a stack. Not a complicated packet. One ownership record. Hawthorne House is in my name, I said. Without my approval, no one can use it for a foundation, a donor suite, a brunch, or a new business. Evelyn read the page. Her hand trembled slightly. She knew, of course. Everyone close to us knew the house came from my grandmother, but knowing something privately and seeing it interrupt a lie in public are different kinds of knowledge. Daniel laughed. But there was panic in it now. Claire likes to wave papers around. It doesn't change the fact that we built this together. We built the business together, I said. You tried to build the replacement without me. I took my phone from my pocket. Daniel's face changed before I unlocked it. That was how I knew he had not forgotten the cameras after all. I did not play the whole clip. I played the part a room could understand. Celeste's voice filled the garden, small but clear through the portable speaker Nora had used for dinner music. When Claire finally loses it, we can say she made the house impossible to use. People already think she's cold. Then Daniel, casual and amused. After the donors see you here, they will understand who should be front-facing. She can keep the paperwork if it makes her feel important. The clip ended. No one moved for several seconds. Celeste whispered. That was private. Pastor Reed finally stood fully. So was her marriage. Daniel tried to speak, but Mrs. Alvarez interrupted with a simple question. Daniel, did you bring us here to support the house or to pressure your wife out of it? His mouth opened. Closed. Mark pushed back from the table. Did you tell donors Celeste would run a property Claire owns? I told them we were transitioning leadership, Daniel snapped. From the owner? Mark asked. The caterer came down the steps then, phone in hand, looking deeply uncomfortable. Mrs. Whitmore, I am sorry to interrupt. We need a final answer. If tomorrow's brunch is not approved by the property owner and paid tonight, the kitchen team will be released and the reservation canceled. Daniel reached for his wallet. Charge mine. The caterer glanced at the tablet. Your card was removed from the property account this morning. We can run a personal card, but that would not approve use of the house. A plan canceled in real time. Access gone immediately. Money separated from control. I looked at Nora. Release tomorrow's brunch. Cancel the donor suite. The cultural fund may not use the Hawthorne House name. Nora tapped the tablet. Confirmed. The caterer nodded into his phone. Release it. Yes, tonight. Thank you. Celeste made a small sound. Not a sob. Something closer to rage trying to dress itself as injury. Daniel stepped toward me. You are destroying everything. No, Evelyn said quietly. He turned as if she had betrayed him. She looked at him with an expression I had never seen from her before. Not anger exactly, but grief with its eyes open. You did that when you brought another woman to your anniversary table and told your wife to leave her own home. That was the moment Daniel lost the room. Not when the card declined. Not when the door code failed. Not when the clip played. When his own mother stopped translating cruelty into stress. Celeste looked around for rescue. She found none. The donors avoided her eyes. Pastor Reed sat back down, shaking his head. Mark stared at the ownership record as if it had simplified the entire marriage into one page. The caterer collected the extra champagne flutes from a tray meant for the cancelled suite. Daniel tried one final time. Claire, think about how this looks. I did. I looked at the long table, the startled faces, the empty chair Celeste had tried to take, the oak tree where we had married, the house my grandmother left me because she trusted me to know when a door should close. It looks accurate, I said. Celeste grabbed her bag. I am not staying to be humiliated. No one stopped her. She marched toward the side gate, but it had been locked for the donor dinner. She stopped, turned back, and looked at Daniel. Nora held up the key ring. Front path is open. Side gate is for staff deliveries only. There was nothing cruel in her voice. That made it worse. Celeste had to walk the full length of the garden, past every table, past the flowers she had chosen, past the donors she had wanted to impress, and out through the front path like any other guest who did not belong in the house after dinner. Daniel did not follow immediately. Pride kept him standing for 3 more seconds. Then he did. Because men like him often confuse choosing a woman with following the only exit left. At the steps, he turned back. Claire. For a moment, I saw the husband I had married. Not in his face, but in the absence where that man should have been. The Daniel who cried when my grandmother died. The Daniel who promised he loved that the house made me feel rooted. The Daniel who learned how to fix the old gate because he said a home should greet its owner properly. Then I remembered his voice on the camera clip, laughing while he said I could keep the paperwork if it made me feel important. Nora, I said, without looking away from him, please remove Daniel's access from all house doors after he leaves. Daniel's face went pale. You can't lock me out of my home. I looked at the house behind him. You told me to get out of mine. No one corrected me. After they left, the garden did not return to normal. It became something more honest than normal. People spoke in low voices. Not because they were gossiping, but because the house had heard enough noise for one night. The caterer cleared plates. The florist began collecting the arrangements Celeste had ordered for the donor suite. Pastor Reed came to me and did not offer advice. He simply said, I'm sorry I didn't speak sooner. You heard it eventually, I said. Evelyn stood near the oak tree, one hand on the chair Daniel had used. She looked smaller. Mothers can look old very suddenly when they realize their sons learned entitlement while they were calling it confidence. Claire, she said, I failed you tonight. Tonight was not the first time. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, there were tears. But she did not ask me to comfort her. No, it wasn't. That made the apology useful. Mark helped Nora carry the canceled sweet linens back to the service van. Mrs. Alvarez asked whether the house would still host the neighborhood scholarship dinner next month. I told her yes if the committee wanted it. She took my hand and squeezed it once. We wanted the house, she said. Not the performance. By midnight, Hawthorne House was quiet. Nora stayed until the last vendor left and handed me the updated access list. Daniel's name was no longer on it. Celeste's temporary code had been disabled. The donor brunch reservation was gone. The property account showed no pending charges except the dinner I had approved before everything broke open. Do you want me here tomorrow? Nora asked. I looked at the staircase, the hallway, the blue hydrangeas I had asked the florist to put back on my grandmother's sideboard after Celeste removed them. No. Take the day. And you? I'm going to sleep in my own house. Nora smiled slightly. Good. Lock the doors. I did. The next morning, Daniel came back at 9 with 2 suitcases in the trunk of his car and Celeste nowhere in sight. He tried the front door code first. The keypad blinked red. He tried again. Red. On the 3rd attempt, the small alarm chirped, polite, and final. I watched from the upstairs window, wearing my robe and holding coffee in both hands. He called my phone. I answered on speaker but did not go downstairs. Claire, he said, voice tight. My clothes are inside. Nora packed what you asked for from the guest room and left it on the porch. I need my office files. Email Nora a list. She will schedule a pickup. You are being cruel. I looked at him through the glass. The morning sun showed every line the garden lights had softened. No. I am being consistent. You told me to leave in front of everyone. I listened to the part where we stopped pretending this was your home to control. He looked toward the porch. The boxes were there, neatly labeled, not thrown, not damaged, not dramatic. Consequences do not need to be messy to be real. Celeste says you ruined her reputation, he said. Celeste used my house to build one. He was quiet then. In the silence, I heard birds in the oak tree and the distant hum of a mower 2 houses over. Ordinary sounds have a way of proving the world can continue after something you were told would destroy it. Can we talk? He asked. Through attorneys when necessary. Through Nora for house access. Through email for finances. Not through my front door. He flinched at the last phrase. I did not soften it. A week later, the canceled donor fund became the story everyone tried not to tell too loudly. Celeste posted a statement about being punished by a jealous wife. It stayed up for 6 hours. Until Mrs. Alvarez commented with one sentence. I was there. That was not what happened. After that, other people stopped staying quiet. Mark wrote that he had heard the recording. Pastor Reed sent a private apology and withdrew from the advisory list Daniel had created. Without my consent, Evelyn called and asked whether she could come by, not to explain, not to defend Daniel, but to return my grandmother's serving tray that had somehow ended up in Daniel's office. When she arrived, she carried it with both hands. I should have seen what he was doing, she said. I took the tray. You saw enough to look away. Her lips trembled. Yes. We stood in the foyer under my grandmother's portrait. I expected anger to rise, but what came instead was a tired kind of clarity. Evelyn had not been the architect. She had been part of the scaffolding. Removing scaffolding does not require hatred. It requires gravity. The scholarship dinner is still on, I said. She looked surprised. After everything, the neighborhood did not betray me. Daniel did. Her eyes filled. May I help? You may attend, I said. Helping will take longer. She nodded. That's fair. The house adjusted before I did. The east wing stayed locked. Daniel's office became a reading room again. The wine cabinet got a new key. The event calendar changed from Daniel's polished chaos into something quieter and more useful. Community dinners, small weddings, piano recitals, the scholarship fundraiser my grandmother would have liked. Nora handled bookings. I approved them. No one used the Hawthorne name without seeing mine beneath it. Daniel sent flowers once. White roses, Celeste's favorite. Nora intercepted them at the door and asked what I wanted done. I looked at the card which said, "We both made mistakes," and handed the arrangement back. "Donate them to the hospital lobby," I said. Somebody there might actually need flowers. He sent one letter after that. I did not read it immediately. I placed it on the mantel for 3 days. Not as punishment, but because I wanted to know whether curiosity was stronger than peace. It wasn't. On the 4th day, I opened it over the kitchen sink. He apologized for humiliating me. He apologized for Celeste. He apologized for trying to use the house. The words were better than I expected, and later than they should have been. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer with the camera clip, the texts, and the ownership record. Not to revisit. To remember that proof had once been necessary. A month after the anniversary dinner, Hawthorne House hosted the scholarship supper. No press. No donor suite. No dramatic toast. Just neighbors at long tables. Students serving lemonade for volunteer hours. Evelyn sitting near the back. Mark carrying chairs. Nora checking candles. Pastor Reed washing dishes after dessert because apology sometimes looks better with sleeves rolled up. At the end of the night, Mrs. Alvarez stood under the oak tree and raised her glass of sweet tea. To Ruth Hawthorne, she said. And to Claire, who kept the house open without letting the wrong people own the door. Everyone looked at me. For once, The attention did not feel like a demand. It felt like light through clean glass. I did not make a speech. I only touched the brass key in my pocket and nodded. Later, after everyone left, I walked through the rooms alone. In the dining room, the silver was put away. In the hall, my grandmother's hydrangeas had begun to dry in their vase. In the kitchen, Nora had left a small note beside the locked cabinet. All doors checked. All accounts current. Your house is resting. I stood there longer than I meant to. One hand on the counter, where Daniel had once left his tablet open and careless. The same counter, where I had learned he thought my silence was weakness. The same counter where I had decided not to collapse in front of people who needed my collapse to finish their story. The house was quiet but not empty. For years, Daniel had told people, Hawthorne House was our dream. He was only half right. It had been my shelter before it became his stage. It had been my grandmother's proof that a woman could build a life with her own name on the door. He mistook being welcomed inside for ownership. That night, I turned off the kitchen light, walked to the front door, and checked the lock. Outside, the garden was dark except for the lamps along the path. The oak tree moved slightly in the wind, patient and old. My husband had told me to apologize to his mistress or get out because he thought love meant I would give him the house, the story, and the silence. He learned that a key is not the same as a right. And I learned that closing a door can be the first honest way to keep a home.